there have been lots of people hurt, and probably by the time it's all said and done, a couple of dozen people who will have been killed as a result of all of these tornadoes. And this is kind of the beginning of the tornado season.
Right.
So there are probably more to come.
Yeah, I'm looking at the weather map right now on weather.com, and you can see this front moving. It's working its way right along the Virginia-Kentucky line. That's quite a cell. Bunch of cells. What a mess.
Well, we got a cell right now just over the top of us here in Waco, Georgia, if you look a little southwest of the Virginia line.
Oh, there it is, down by Greenville, and actually to the west to you.
Yeah, and I actually have a couple of my employees that have frantically come over here to visit because we have a basement.
Hey, Bill, how's it going? How's that basement doing? You know.
We're gonna check it for cracks.
Yeah, what's for dinner? Oh yeah, just to the north of you, it is solid red above Douglasville.
Yeah.
Well, you know, here I'm reading Yahoo News right now, and they're quoting that Huntsville, Alabama, was hit today by a tornado, and they were hit in April of 2011, and over 300 people were killed.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
And so they've been hit again today, and so you're right. I mean, there are cells in that area. You know, there's lots of...
I can count easily 20 or 30 cells right now running from Jacksonville, what is that, Tennessee? Jacksonville, is that Mississippi? Yeah, Jacksonville, Mississippi. I mean, right on up to Georgia into Virginia. It's unbelievable. Holy cow. Hey, take cover, guys. If you're listening right now, don't be, get in the basement. Do something right, safe,
Or go to Bill's basement. He'll have room for you. Just head on over to Waco, Georgia, and he'll make room for you.
Okay.
That's right.
That's right. Lots of room. And you got that new garage up too now, right?
Yeah. We actually have got 3 of the 4 windows installed. We're almost dried in. Roof is on. I've been pressure washing, getting ready to treat the logs.
I've been wondering about that, Bill. You have a log home, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, was yours a kit?
Yes.
What company did you go with? There's a bunch of different companies out there.
I did a couple tours of a couple factories when my wife and I were shopping, and the one that I settled on was Southland Log Homes. They're out of Irmo, South Carolina. It's just north, or part of the Metro Columbia, South Carolina area.
Is that right? So did you go with white pine?
Yellow pine.
Yellow pine, okay. And they did the same with the garage?
Yes, sir. And I actually called them back up, and instead of buying all machine perfect logs, I went and purchased what they call seconds.
Right.
And it saved me $7 a linear foot. So this is a very frugal garage. It's 1,200 square foot, but I built it well within a budget. If I would have put together a budget, it would have been considered under budget. I got some great deals.
Now, did you pour like inside of it? Did you pour it with concrete or what?
Oh yeah, it's sitting on a slab.
Okay.
And it exceeds. I like to do things a little excessive. The slab construction exceeds all county and state minimums.
Right.
And because I don't like things to crack, I don't just get by on the minimum. And I hired local help to do that. A guy named Cooper. He owns Cooper Grading.
Oh,
and, had prefab trusses done by Truss Pros here in Tallapoosa, Georgia.
Right.
So I love to give the local economy any business I can.
Right. Well, that's the way I feel. I like giving my business to the local guys, like my insurance guy, Steve Gannon. I always like just helping out the local guys when I can, just because.
Well, I'll tell you, building. You mentioned, Bill, that you exceeded all of the codes. There's some real value in that. Back several years ago, my family and I were in Orlando when a hurricane was bearing down on us, Hurricane Francis, and it came right over Orlando.
Huh.
And we've never been in a hurricane. We didn't know what to do, and I called several people, and one of the people I called, his father-in-law was the one who wrote all the building codes for Disney World.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he said, you need to stay right where you are.
Yeah, right.
They built all of those buildings at Disney World to their own codes, and it's about 5 times the normal building code, so you won't have to worry. We sat there, and that hurricane went over us, and it was moving really slow. It was moving about 4 miles an hour, and the eye literally went over us. And for about 36 to 40 hours, we had that hurricane in our face.
Really?
Yes, and there was no damage. There was no damage other than trees falling on the Disney property. That was the only real damage that occurred. And all outside of the Disney property, there were buildings that had lost roofs or had lost exterior walls or whatever else. Wow. So exceeding the building codes is always a wise thing if you can do it.
Now, did you guys lose your electric at all while you're there, or no problem?
You know, that's interesting. Disney planned for that.
Really?
And so all of their electrical, all of their cable, everything. Disney is actually their own city. They have their own fire department. They have their own police department. They have their own EMS services. Their EMS services are the top rated in the state.
Do they have a mayor? That's right. What am I thinking? Of course.
Sure. And on top of that, they have they generate their own electricity.
Really? How?
They have their own power plants, and they have more than one, and they're located in different parts of the property. They have thousands and thousands of acres, and so the power plants are located in other parts of the property where the tourist isn't going to see them.
Right.
And we never lost power. We never lost water. We never lost the cable. Everything in when we were staying in a condo there at Disney that was a 2-bedroom apartment. So we had our own kitchen and all of that. We had brought plenty of food in, and we just sat there for 2 days with the storm right over our heads.
And watched the Weather Channel the whole time, right?
There were several TVs in the apartment, and one of them was always tuned in on the local news and weather, and it was an interesting experience.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But because the codes of the buildings in Disney World far exceed anything that anybody else is doing, and of course they have the pockets to do that. Right. Then the property was fine. The parks were open the day after the storm blew through.
Wow.
What?
How about that?
Well, that's Southland's claim to fame was when Katrina went through New Orleans. There was a Southland log home that withstood that, and they did an aerial shot, and the only building that was left standing was actually a Southland log home, and there was stick-built construction that was leveled all around it within a 2-mile radius.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, I mean, when you go log, man, you're talking, you got some solid walls.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I've ran into them before when I was drinking.
I guess it's another safety test.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, so we got some bad weather. Davy Jones passed. What else has been going on, Steve? Well, it's been a very active week.
It has been an active week. Today, and this is news that I just got while I was eating dinner before the show. My son and I went out to a local Chinese restaurant, and they had TVs up on the wall, and I saw that the news program was announcing that General Motors has announced that they are halting production of the Chevy Volt.
Why? It's such a wonderful car. Everybody wants one. They're electric. They're friendly. That less baby seals will get squashed in their head if we buy Volts.
Well, evidently the consumer doesn't feel that way.
What?
The first year that the Volt came out, I think they sold 1,500.
1,500 units?
1,500 Chevy Volts that first year.
It really is an ugly car. I'm
well,
sorry.
You know what? The ugly, if that didn't particularly bother me, but I'm going to tell you there were a couple of reasons, and I've been looking for an economical car.
That's right. You were shopping.
You wouldn't want an electric car that will only let you travel 100 miles and then you have to charge the thing up for 16 hours.
That's right. That was there were a couple of things that put the Volt out of the picture for me totally. One was the price. It was upwards of $40,000.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And second, a 100-mile trip was about it.
Yeah, you couldn't even make it to the church you're going to preach at on Sunday morning without having to pull over and refuel with electric. And that's another thing. The whole idea was it was supposed to save our natural resources and all this garbage. Well, if you're plugging it in and you're sucking electric, isn't that making a diesel or a nuclear generator work?
Well, exactly. I've done some research on that, and it's not. I mean, there are not recharging stations, but you can actually recharge the vehicle using a standard outlet.
Okay.
The problem is that it doesn't come with that charger. You have to purchase that charger in addition to purchasing the car, and it's anywhere from $800 to $1,200.
Nice.
Important attachments sold separately.
Yeah.
By the way, the manufacturer's recommended price is $31,645. That's ridiculous.
Refresh my memory, Steve. Isn't this the vehicle that our glorious leader has been all about?
Well, President Obama has been pushing this vehicle particularly, and other green modes of transportation. And by the way, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with having those options out there. Yeah. Where I do have a problem is when I'm told that's what you're going to do.
All right.
And in the United States, Americans really don't take well to being told this is your option.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of free spirits here in America, and
say that again.
So I think that's one of the reasons why the vehicle never took off. I think also, though, it's just not a practical vehicle. A vehicle with a 100-mile range, and then you have to plug it in for a minimum of 8 hours to recharge it. I use my vehicle to travel in.
Mm-hmm.
I travel from Arkansas to Florida several times a year. That's a 1,200-mile trip.
So there'd be 12 stops for juicing up.
It would take me 12 days to get to Florida.
But maybe the whole idea was it would boost the economy for the guys with the hotels and motels because they'd be making a fortune off you.
I suppose.
Maybe if you wanted everybody to live in a metropolitan area, it would more or less corner them to just a 100-mile area that they could travel daily. Because some of the conspiracy stuff out there that you hear about and you read about is he wants everybody to move into the inner cities.
I could see that. Yeah.
And it would kind of dictate.
Yeah.
Use the term, but it would dictate that people would be in a closed cell city, and you would have minimal travel distances to go.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry. If I lived in a major metropolitan area and I worked at a job in that major area that didn't require travel, that I just went from my home to my office, then that car might have been on the list, although the price of the car still would have made it probably something that I wouldn't have wanted to consider. Mm-hmm. But there are other green options out there. The Toyota Prius stands at the top of that list. I mean, you can get 50 miles to the gallon in that vehicle, and it runs both on gasoline and electric.
Mm-hmm. I remember reading in off the Dredge Report, I guess it was last summer, that there were some concerns being raised by some of the EMT fire rescue guys because these Volts, if they're in an accident, they can become hot. And in the process of trying to rescue people, firemen could be electrocuted. There was a safety issue that was coming up, and it was like, wait a minute. We're going to have to train all of our guys how to do rescue of electric vehicles in order to be able to save lives. And And that doesn't mean like we'll be able to save lives. That just means we're going to learn how to do it, and we're going to have to find out whether we can do it or not later, at the expense of losing our guys' lives.